Hi, Richard. Thank you so much for coming in today. My name is Dr. Bittman. So this is our first session, and I want to thank you for bringing in your questionnaire. I was able to read through that, as well as your BAI and BDI scores. Thank you for filling that out before the session. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, what we're doing here today. My name is Dr. Bittman. I'm the counselor for all of the 12th grade, and I mainly specialize in CBT. And is that something that you've heard about before?
I've never heard of CBT.
Okay, so it's cognitive behavioral therapy, and I believe that thoughts, behaviors, physiology, emotions are all interconnected. So usually, if we think negatively, that can tie to our behavior. Do you have an example where maybe your thoughts affected your behavior?
When I think of my girlfriend or anything that reminds me of her, I think negatively. I get really sad. I'm not positive. Just generally get down, and I really feel like her presence or anything that mentions her name really affects me.
Yeah, and that's a great example, and I'm sorry to hear that, but that actually is a great example. So in CBT, we work with something called an ABC model, and the A is antecedent. So like you said with your girlfriend, maybe if you hear a song or you hear something that reminds you, you'll start to get anxious. The B would be the belief system, so like the negative self-talk, and then the consequence would be maybe you're like isolating yourself. So we're going to be working within the CBT model. And it's important to understand the antecedents because, we need to understand what happened to cause the behavior so we can work on correcting that behavior, fixing it, and modifying it. So just going over your demographics, I just want to see what brought you in today to therapy. What made you decide that you want to start coming in?
That my girlfriend, despite breaking up with her, still affects me.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to go back to my positive self.
Okay, and we're going to delve a little bit more into that. Just really quickly, I do want to talk about confidentiality. So everything that you tell me stays between us. If I do feel that you are a threat to yourself or to others, that is something that I will have to report. And all the confidentiality was in your packet. Did you have any questions on it?
Nope.
Okay, great. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what's been going on this year that's, with your girlfriend. I read a little bit through your questionnaire. I know that your anxiety scores were severe, your depression scores were severe. How do you feel like it's impacting your life if you just want to kind of walk me through what's been happening?
Sure. So feeling anxious all the time isn't really conducive to me going to school. It makes it really hard to pay attention in class.
Mm-hmm.
I'm withdrawing from friends, spending a lot of time at home, binge watching Netflix. And you get to continue watching
Mm-hmm.
Vox, which
Yes.
I'm sure you
Yeah.
understand. And just generally feeling down, not being able to eat as much, feeling like I'm dropping weight, just things like that. And I really want to turn that around.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that the breakup is having a significant impact in your life, in terms of you're not doing the activities that you used to do. And how does that make you feel?
I'm not happy that I'm not performing the activities that I used to love doing.
So I'm sorry. No, go on.
It makes me wonder, will I ever return to my normal self?
And what would you say your normal self was like before this breakup?
Somebody who's really easygoing, outgoing, loves socializing with people, just like putting myself into the center of groups, having all the attention on me.
Yeah.
Now I've receded and not wanting to interact with people, not going out.
And do you have anyone in your life that you can talk to about what you've been going through?
Russian immigrant parents, not really an option to talk about these things.
And what about with your peer group?
Guys at 18 aren't exactly the most emotionally aware people.
Yeah, and
so it's really hard when you don't have a peer group to be able to relate to, and then parents who are difficult to talk to.
Of course, and that does definitely sound like it could be difficult. And what I hear that you're saying too is, you've really withdrawn from a lot of activities. You're feeling very anxious and depressed. Are you still in touch with your girlfriend?
No.
No?
I still see her around and still hear people mentioning her name and things like that. Listening to songs as well is a trigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so before you listen, is it when you listen to the song that's a trigger, or certain songs? I guess what happens before you start to feel down or withdrawn? And take some time, think about it. There's no pressure. This is your session.
I mean, it's not that even that I feel anything. It's more about, just being reminded of that person is the main problem.
Of course, and I think relationships have such a significant impact on us. And something I want to talk with you about today. So I want to just have one action item that we're going to work on today, and that's we're going to do the ABC model ourselves, and we're going to talk a little bit further about your feelings and how I can help you. So really quickly, I know in your questionnaire you said as well that you don't want to commit suicide, but you're having suicidal thoughts. If you could just talk with me a little bit more about that.
It's more about like not wanting to go on and feeling like you're really down and like there's no hope. But I don't think that I'm in a position where I will actually act on that.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely recognize that there is still good and there's still things to look forward to.
Of course.
But I feel like getting through this initial rut is really difficult.
Yeah, and are there any things right now that you do to feel better when you're down?
Eat.
Okay, but you did say that you're dropping weight. So you try to eat to keep up with. Okay.
Mainly eating really shitty foods.
So comfort foods, things like that. Is there anything else that you're doing when you're feeling down?
Nope.
Okay, so what are those feelings when you are down, if you can explain it? Like, what do you feel when you listen to a song?
Really emotional. I begin to feel really tired. I feel my heartbeat racing. Just a mixed box of emotions.
Okay, and I'm sorry to hear that. I know how difficult it must be. And do you see her in a lot of your classes?
No.
Okay, so it's mainly you don't see her a lot at school.
Not really.
Okay, so it's mainly when you are reminded of her through like pictures or songs of you guys. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that your thoughts about your girlfriend are affecting your behavior. Now, in terms of physiology, you said you feel your heart racing. So that's commonly associated with anxiety. So something that I want to try right now while we're in therapy is, body scanning. So when you're feeling really anxious, I want you to kind of ground yourself. And I'm going to send you an article about body scanning, and we're going to do a 5-minute exercise that I want you to take home. But it's basically just sort of like a meditative exercise that will help you. You're going to focus on your breathing, and you're going to do that every single time you start to feel really anxious. I think that will help you out a lot. Is there any other symptoms that you feel in your body when you're depressed? So mainly just the heart racing. Okay. And I know you said that, you eat when you feel sad. You're not eating the best food. So something I want to do in our session today is I want to think of 3 things that you can do to, feel better when you're feeling those things. And we're going to have a few sessions and we're going to work on it together. I think it's more of a long-term goal. But one of them that I'm going to suggest is the body scanning. Taking some time, meditating, go through the article and kind of read what body scanning is and, follow the exercise video that I send you every time you're feeling that. But what are 2 others that you can suggest to dealing with this?
I don't know, that's why I came here.
Yeah. And that's the first one that I'm suggesting. And I think it is so great that you came here. But I want you to try to figure out one that you will do. Because I think if you're going to suggest it, you're more inclined to do it.
Maybe breathing.
Okay, so breathing. Can you be more specific?
Trying to fill my diaphragm and control my emotions.
So the reason that I suggested these 3 different behaviors is to replace the behaviors that you have. So when you do that, you are able to change your physiology. When you change your physiology, you change your emotions. So when you talked about your girlfriend, you get anxiety. When you get the anxiety, you start to feel your heart racing. When you start to feel your heart racing, the emotions are feeling sad, depressed, anxious. So we're trying to change that. So that's why we did those 3 exercises together. So something that I want to do to kind of end on a good note is, a few things. I want to try doing the ABC model with you. So I want you to write out an antecedent. So why don't you tell me another example of when you feel anxious or depressed? Like what happens before you feel that? And it could be anything. It could be with your girlfriend or anything else.
Rush of emotion.
But before the rush of emotions, what do you feel? What causes you to feel the rush of emotions?
Thoughts of reminders of my girlfriend.
Okay. So reminders of your girlfriend. And what about your belief?
What do you mean?
Do you have negative self-talk? Like, what do you think about yourself? What are your thoughts about yourself during this time? Like, when you get reminders of your girlfriend, what is your self-talk? We were talking about your beliefs. I know the antecedents, you said reminders of your girlfriend. So the beliefs, when you are feeling these things, what do you think about yourself? What are some things that come up?
Empty, worthless, hollow, void of emotion.
Okay. And what are the consequences of your belief system?
Eating really bad food, withdrawing from friends, eating cookies all day.
Eating bad food, withdrawing. Okay. And what happens when you withdraw from your friends? What does that look like to you? So I can make sure I'm understanding.
I lay in bed and watch Netflix all day.
Okay. And have your friends asked what's going on?
They have. And I tell them I watch Netflix all day.
Okay. So do you feel like it's hard to talk with them?
Yeah,
I know you said they're not.
I feel like that they don't really understand what it means to have an emotional conversation or support somebody when they're going through emotional strain.
Yeah, and that must be very difficult, I think, because obviously you want to be able to lean on your friends during a hard time. So thank you for doing that exercise with me. I hope it was helpful for you. So I want to bring you in for 6 more sessions, and we're going to work on some things that you mentioned that you wanted to fix in your intake form and in our session. So we're going to work on your depression, your anxiety, and what causes it, different coping methods, and I just wanted to see how you feel about doing 6 sessions with me.
I think we should start with 6, but I think 18 will definitely be needed.
Okay, so we'll start with 6.
She really did a number on me.
So we'll start with 6 and see, where you are at 6 sessions. We'll definitely check in, and we'll go from there. I just kind of want to summarize some things we talked about today before we jump into the homework and the goals. So we talked on replacing your behaviors with body scanning, which I'll send you resources for, breathing exercises, and then journaling. So when you say journaling, are you just going to do writing prompts?
I don't know. What do you think is best? Do you think it's better to date and just do, writing prompts when I'm feeling what I'm feeling?
Yeah.
Or should I just do a daily check-in? I don't know. What are some journaling resources you can send me?
Sure. So I'm going to send you some articles about journaling to help specifically with your anxiety, and that's part of our homework for this week. I'm going to keep it really simple because I want it to be effective. So our homework is just try the 3 exercises. I'm going to send you information on everything, and as far as journaling, I want you just to journal every single day your feelings and how you're using the replacement behaviors for your feelings. And I want to ask you, and I'm going to hold you to this every single session, we're going to do a goal, and I just want to ask you, what is your goal that you want to keep for this week until we meet next week?
To journal every day.
Okay, so that's your one goal. Journal every day. Okay, great. And then I just want to ask for any feedback on this session. How did you feel that it went? Did you need clarification on anything? Could I have done a better job, maybe?
No, you just need to send me the link that you said you were going to send. Everything else is good.
Okay, perfect.
This is my first time, so I have nothing to compare it to.
Great. Well, thank you for being, open to therapy. So I will go ahead and see you next week.
Sounds good.
So that was an example of how CBT is used with a student. And as you can see, I explained what the model is. I talked about confidentiality. I also listed replacement behaviors. I talked about action items. I talked about a homework assignment and a goal at the end of the session, as well as asking for feedback on maybe what I could have done better. I tried to understand the client, and during the session, I tried to stay on track. The client wasn't super chatty, but I tried to keep, I had my action items going, like what I wanted to do in this first session. So I covered all the elements of CBT. Thanks so much.